Ebrahim Alkazi's was a pursuit of understanding what it means to be a citizen of world cultures, to absorb trajectories that would not ghettoize and isolate the meaning of belonging, but embody a profoundly liberal understanding of place and identity, one that accommodates the realities of always being on the move and lives marked by plurality. Trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts and the British Drama League in the UK, Alkazi returned to Bombay in the early 1950s, determined to create a generation of highly skilled professional actors, directors, and designers for a burgeoning theatre movement in India.
So I felt that it was necessary for us, if we wanted to be professional in our work, to have some kind of professional training. And therefore, even in the theatre group, I started a course, a training course of lectures, for example, in Western literature, in Indian literature, in the Sanskrit theatre, say, for example, and in Indian aesthetics. We had also started classes in Kathakali. We had no premises of our own, and therefore we used the Institute of Foreign Languages. Kathakali exercises were carried on there. We had classes in mime and movement. And in the Institute of Foreign Languages, I did quite a number of plays. I did Murder in the Cathedral there. I did Ghosts and a few other plays.
From 1950 onwards, Alkazi strategized 3 training courses for student or members of the theatre group, involving them directly in actual productions culled from the pantheon of world dramatic literature. Simultaneously, Alkazi foresaw the need to educate the audience as well into appreciating not only meaningful theatre, but to develop a taste and understanding of all the arts. Towards this end, he mounted a series of art exhibitions titled This is Modern Art at Bombay's Jahangir Art Gallery in 1954 and 55.
The other work that we did with the exhibitions, the 13 exhibitions, This is Modern Art, and why we did them for the theatre unit, in what way we tried to educate the theatre unit through these exhibitions into an understanding of modern art. How could you do modern theatre unless you do new modern art? And therefore all the lectures also that I gave on Western art and on contemporary Indian art, and our association with these artists, with Hussain and Tayyib Mehta, Akbar Padamsi and Gaitonde and so on.
By 1954, Alkazi had formalized his ideas into a tight 2-year training program in both Hindi and English for the School of Dramatic Arts, which he set up under the auspices of his newly formed company, the Theatre Unit.
With premises at the Bhulabhai Desai Institute, where practitioners from the various arts had their studios, Alkazi began to construct a new performance language where the actor was trained to use his entire physical apparatus, not just his voice, in conveying meaning. Alongside each element of theatre, music, the sets, the costumes, the lighting, the choreography, these were orchestrated to contribute to a visually rich and textured theatrical experience. It was a language where ensemble playing took precedence over individual, stellar performances. The first of many architectural ventures, Meghdud Theater, an open-air, sea-facing theatre, was built in 1958 by Alkazi on the terrace of the building in which he and his family resided in Bombay. The space accommodated about 100 persons, with green rooms for the actors under the main seating structure. The productions here provided Alkazi with a permanent space to rehearse and perform in a repertory structure every weekend.
The theatre is not merely a form of entertainment. It is a way of looking at life. What a theatre school seeks to impart is not the knowledge of techniques, but the creation of a particular vision, the dramatic vision.
Alkazi's methodology of theatre training reached its full fruition in the 3-year training program he developed, devised and designed as director of the NSD from 1962 to 1977, making great demands on the actor to be disciplined and develop a social conscience.
In 1967, during the production of Hori, along with 45 students from the National School of Drama, Alkazi designed an open-air theatre in the lawns of Rabindra Bhavan, New Delhi, also known as the Meghdud Theater.
While we built a small little theatre upstairs, breaking the wall between 2 rooms and providing the possibility then of putting up a stage, a small intimate stage for 75 spectators, we felt also the need to provide training to the students in acting in the open air. And when students start working with their own hands on a design such as this, implementing the ideas, learning through trial and error how to adjust things, ultimately I think they come up with a solution which is much better than anything that a highly trained architect could provide.
An incredible character on the scene, the people tree, became the focal point around which a mud stage was built. For a play such as Hori, Alkazi wanted his students to erect a village with their own hands, to shape an environment, to see how the environment shapes homes and shapes minds, and to learn how the very dust of a landscape coats the language of a people. Taking the battlements and ruins of monuments like Firozshah Kotla and the Purana Killa as backdrops to his productions, Alkazi's quest was to create the experience of history palpable to his current times, where these historical monuments not only contributed to the aesthetics and ecology of the performance, but is tied up with the poetics of theatre itself.
The actor must assimilate the principles underlying the various forms of classic theatre and regard them at the same time through the vision of the 20th century. He studies theatre architecture from the classic Sanskrit and Greek to the theatres of Minneapolis and Chichester to see the connection between dramatic and architectural forms. He learns scenic design to experience at first hand the rapport between the actor and the space around him, between the shaping of silence into words and the carving of space into shapes. He supplements his knowledge of Chekhov by analyzing the works of the Impressionist painters. In Cézanne, he discovers the crystalline structure similar to that found in the plays of Ibsen. He begins thus to establish correspondences, to see how the spirit of an age frequently manifests itself in many art forms. He must also know costume design, makeup, and the making of masks, which are essentially functions of the actor in investing himself with a character, rather than that of specialists serving him. And his knowledge of lighting he gleans from the old masters, rather than from technical handbooks, from Caravaggio and El Greco and Rembrandt and the great moderns.
Okay, let's start.
Alkazi was the director of the National School of Drama from 1962 to 1977. Simultaneously, being a visual artist himself, he established a number of art institutions in anticipation of an interconnected art space which could amalgamate different disciplines across different timelines. The Art Heritage Gallery, established with Roshan Alkazi in 1977, was a commercial art gallery with a dual mandate of commerce and education. This venture, unique for its times, was committed to promoting an awareness and appreciation of modern Indian art. Located at the art complex Triveni Kala Sangam in New Delhi, the gallery has held over 600 exhibitions, over 20 retrospectives, and published over 450 catalogues celebrating works of both distinguished artists as well as new and emerging talent from India and abroad. In the 1980s and the 1990s, Alkazi became interested in film and photography as media that had the power to change perceptions, that, with editing and censoring, could influence the course of history and causality. A gallery in New York named Sepia International and the Alkazi collection of photography at the Alkazi Foundation of the Arts in New Delhi became holding, research, commissioning, and exhibition spaces for Alkazi's growing collection of 19th century and contemporary South Asian photography. The Alkazi Theater Archives is a privately owned collection initiated in 2016 and located at the Alkazi Foundation for the Arts, New Delhi. While the archive contains materials from post-independence modern Indian theatre, it believes that a dialogue with contemporary practices allows for a telescopic view of how historical contexts and legacies of theatre practice have informed different theatre content and form. This allows us to trace historical chronologies, ideologies, methods, processes as a map that is complex, hypertextual, and networked. Can theatre be considered a lens through which history can be read? To link theatre and history is to consider artistic practice a methodology and a tool. The Alkazi Theatre Archives also looks to connect families of vocabularies that are not connected by default by proposing new linkages across different creative practices. Both theatre and photography hold theatricality, performativity, representation, visuality, authenticity, and liveness as important points of reference. In the 21st century, theatre is referenced in an expanded field, playing with the idea of an inventory of artistic strategies in progress. The archive can perhaps be considered a stage, where improvising and taking meaningful liberties from that which is already scripted allows narratives to reveal, transform, and devise new ways of telling a story for a changing world.